Okay, it's 6 o'clock, October 21st, 2013. Therefore, it's time to start this meeting of the San Felipe Del Rio C.I.S.D. Board of Trustees. 6 members. Mr. Overfeld, we have a quorum, correct?
Yes, sir, we do.
Let the record show that a quorum of the board members are present, that this meeting's been duly called, and notice this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. At this time, if you'd stand for opening ceremonies. First, a moment of silence. Now the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. That brings us to agenda item 4, now that we are in our meeting. That's the recognitions, the first one being A, Texas Music Educators Association choir results. Del Rio High School, Mr. Juan Tanya is presenting.
Good evening, Mr. Garabedian, Dr. Rios, members of the board. This evening, I'm here to inform you of the Del Rio High School choir students that placed at the TMEA region choir competition. The students are Clarissa Martinez, senior, Carolina Buenteo, senior, Philip Rincon, senior, and Carlos Rodarte, freshman. Clarissa Martinez will also be moving on to the TMEA pre-area competition. At this time, I would like to ask our choir instructor, Mr. Gonzalez, to come forward to give us a little summary of the competition.
Good evening. I first would like to start with a very thank you for your support in our programs. In about October 8th, we took about 36 students to compete for our region choir competition. Out of those 36, we have Carolina, who placed 13th as an alto 1. So she advances to the region choir. We also had Philip Rincon, who also placed 13th, who also has a spot in the region choir. And then we have Clarissa Martinez, who placed 7th as a soprano 1. She has earned a spot in the region choir and is moving up to the next round of competitions against Northside ISD, Edgewood ISD, Southwest ISD, all of the Hill Country. So we have our work cut out for us. So I'm very, very proud of their hard work. And before we go, we would like to also extend the invitation to come see our musical Annie. This is the 3rd year that dance and theater and choir have gotten together, and Clarissa is playing Annie, and Philip is playing the role of Rooster, and Carolina is playing the role of Mrs. Hannigan. So we ask you to come and enjoy the show. It starts November 14th up to the 17th, so it will be at the Little Theater. Thank you very much, and thank you for your continued support.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Congratulations to you and your students. We look forward to your future successes throughout the year, including UIL.
That brings us to agenda item 4B, recognition of San Felipe Del Rio CISD principals. Dr. Carlos Rios is presenting.
Thank you, Mr. Garabedian, members of the board. The month of October has been named Principals Month, and we've been encouraged by our governor to have recognition of our principals. So we've organized something simple for them today, and if you'll allow me, I'll read the proclamation, then I'll ask Dr. Garza and Ms. Garcia to come forward and continue with the recognition. From the state of Texas, Office of the Governor. As school leaders, principals are entrusted with our most valuable resource, our next generation of leaders. These students are a promise for the future, and it is critical that they receive a rigorous and well-rounded education. Principals are more than just caretakers of their schools. Principals are expected to be educational leaders, disciplinarians, community builders, spokesmen, budget analysts, and guardians of policy mandates and initiatives. Principals set the academic tone for their schools and work collaboratively with teachers to maintain high curriculum standards, develop mission statements, and set performance objectives. The National Association of Elementary School Principals and the National Association of Secondary School Principals, joined by their state affiliates, have designated the month of October as a time to recognize the contributions of elementary, middle, and high school principals. At this time, I encourage all Texans to recognize the important role principals play in ensuring that every child has access to a high-quality education. Therefore, I, Rick Perry, Governor of Texas, do hereby proclaim October 2013 to be Principals Month in Texas and urge the appropriate recognition whereof. Dr. Garza and Garcia, proceed.
Thank you, Dr. Rios, Mr. Garbedian, members of the board. It is a great honor to introduce our principals for the district. So what we're going to do is we're going to call out the first principal, which is going to be Mrs. Diaz. Mrs. Diaz, would you please join us up here? And presenting something for Mrs. Diaz is Mrs. Polanco.
Members. Leaders instill in their people a hope for success and a belief in themselves. Positive leaders empower people to accomplish their goals. Mrs. Eliza Diaz, our principal, is not only a dedicated leader of our Garfield community, but she exemplifies the true meaning of positive teamwork and collaboration. At our school, we are a true family. We give to one another and we never stop. Mrs. Diaz believes in each and every one of us. Her vision since she became principal was to establish a nurturing environment that would empower teachers, students, and families with the highest expectations. With this awesome inner vision, we are accomplishing these goals step by step through whatever obstacles arise. Her open door policy makes it very easy to communicate when we have those days that seem overwhelming. She is one that we can go to when we need to talk, cry, or laugh, or just sit for a minute or two. We are so very, very lucky to have Mrs. Diaz as our principal, as our friend, and as our leader. With Mrs. Diaz leading the way, we look forward to reaching to the stars to accomplish and achieve the best we possibly can. We thank her for her commitment to the teachers, our students, and all of our families at Garfield Elementary. Happy Principals Appreciation Month, Mrs. Diaz. We love you. You are the best.
She has a little, we've been practicing acrostic poems and all different types of poetry, so now we're, go ahead, Tyler, read it. Okay, you want me to hold it for you? Okay, go ahead.
Miss Diaz. E. Encouraging. L. Loving. I. Important to us all. Z. Zany at times. A. Adventurous. D. Dynamic. I. Interested in all we do. A. Always available. Z. Zealous. Active and enthusiastic.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
At this time, we would like to call up Mrs. Salas from Buena Vista. And we will also like to recognize Mrs. Calderon.
Mrs. Salas, thank you for being approachable and welcoming. Your open door policy makes us feel confident that you will listen to our needs. Thank you for being a confidence booster. You notice when we get something right and you celebrate it with other teachers. Thank you for being supportive. When something is important to us, it becomes important to you. Thank you for being goal-oriented with high expectations. You set high standards for Buena Vista Elementary in attendance, scores, and UIL activities. Thank you for being our discipline facilitator. You take the role of sheriff and you stick to your guns when the going gets tough. Thank you for being consistent and following through with decisions made. At times, it's not the easiest road to take, but it's the road that will lead us to success. Thank you for showing fairness. You hear both sides of the story before making a final decision. Thank you for being positive. You encourage your staff and students to always bring their best. Thank you for instilling pride at Buena Vista, from the foyer to the hallways to the t-shirts we all wear. Our Buena Vista spirit is loud and proud. Sincerely, the Buena Vista staff.
At this time, we would like to recognize Mrs. Villarreal from Lonnie Green. And we would like to bring up Mrs. Casillas.
I would like to start with a quote. The only way to do great things, or the only way to do great work, is to love what you do. This quote embodies everything that Mrs. Jane Villarreal, our principal at Dr. Lonnie Green, is. We would like to express our gratitude to our distinguished board members and superintendent for allowing us this opportunity to recognize our great principal. Jane Villarreal is truly an exceptional human being. She demonstrates her humanity and caring for each and everyone daily, regardless of her hectic duties. A pat on the back, friendly hug, words of encouragement are all in a day's work for her. Masterful at multitasking, and dare we say, making it look so easy, is something she skillfully accomplishes every day. We admire and respect our leader. She demonstrates her unconditional support for our ideas and concerns, and is always willing to go out of her way in an encouraging manner to help us grow professionally. She motivates staff and students to achieve our best, and we can count on her for guidance and inspiration. In addition to being an administrator, she is in the trenches with each and every one of us daily. She seems to have ESP powers, for she knows exactly where she needs to be. She is the glue that unites the campus in a productive, caring manner. Her friendly smile is always welcoming. We sincerely admire, respect, and appreciate everything she does and is. Jane Villarreal, hats off to you. You're the best. Love, your Dr. Lonnie Green staff.
And now we would like to recognize Mrs. Adams, principal of North Heights Elementary. We would like to call Mrs. Ortiz.
Good evening. Before you stands a very proud teacher of North Heights Elementary.
On August 2013, North Heights Elementary began with a fresh new start. Ms. Ruby Adams came to our school as a new principal. She came with a lot of determination and a huge smile. She is a leader that recognizes her teachers as professionals and never lets us forget how wonderful her staff is. She is always visible to us. As busy as she is, she takes a few minutes to listen to our concerns. She has great ideas to improve our teaming and planning protocol and is bringing many exciting things to our campus, such as championships as Andale del Rio, and she also earned our campus a grant to encourage our students to walk and bike to school. She has also began Coffee and Donut with the principal, where she meets with parents and answers questions, which encourages great rapport with our community. She backs our school's activities, such as skate night, where both she and Mr. Mendez skated and fell down. And we have pictures with them on their bottoms to prove it. We also now have a beautiful Chief's Cafe to enjoy our lunches and staff meetings. Because of her example of team effort, we are determined to bring North Heights Elementary back to the top of our game. Miss Adams, thank you for your pats on the back, your positive attitude, and believing in us. We appreciate you with all our hearts. Thank you, your North Heights staff, where we dream, we believe, and we achieve.
And now we would like to recognize Mrs. Muraira, principal of Dr. Fermin Calderon. We would like to call up Mrs. Parsons.
I recently read somewhere that schools need principals because they help build the school community and take on issues that many others may not, and that school communities need a leader who can build a guiding team and vision and help move a school forward. It also said that that team needs someone at the front as well as quality teachers who can share in what the vision should be. I feel that Brianna Moraida is a true educational leader who accomplishes all of these goals and many more. She doesn't just handle discipline, go to meetings, and conduct observations. She demonstrates a love of learning and support that I feel can only come from within. She supports the teachers she works with, at the same time advocating for students who may sometimes lack the voice to advocate for themselves. She tries to find a balance between keeping students safe, listening to parent concerns, and supporting her teachers. Ms. Moraida is a very optimistic, positive, caring, creative, and fun-loving person who probably doesn't realize how important she is to those around her. Our staff feel truly honored and blessed to work for such a great person and administrator.
And now we would like to recognize Ms. Flores, principal of Lamar Elementary. And we would like to call Ms. Bringham.
I've known Ms. Maribel Flores for a month now, since she took the helm of Lamar Elementary. Some might wonder why I'd come to speak today after knowing her for such a short time. That's the thing about Ms. Flores, though. She made a very quick, positive impression on me and our entire school. It's no secret that Ms. Flores came to Lamar at a time of great change. The school year had already started, we had an interim principal, and the entire district was adapting to the new initiative. Despite having big shoes to fill, I personally think she accepted the position with bravery and poise. Ms. Flores got to work right away, making improvements, introducing campus-wide procedures, and truly listening to teachers about what we felt was needed. She can be found on campus long outside duty hours and has worked tirelessly to make certain we are organized and running smoothly. It is evident in her words and deeds that Ms. Flores believes in and is excited for Dr. Rios' vision for the district. That, coupled with her high expectations for student achievement, is very contagious. Knowing that she cares about our future success makes her an inspiration to work with and the perfect fit and blessing for Lamar.
Keep up the good work. And now we would like to recognize Mr. Perez, principal of Chavira Elementary. And we have Mrs. Galindo.
To the best principal in the universe. Our campus is our universe, and you indeed, sir, have demonstrated a huge sense of caring for the teachers, which is your backbone, for the students, which is your heart. We continue to come to you with our needs and demands, and you truly try to meet them. The main thing is you listen to all of us, and during protocol, you allow us to discuss our learning targets and let us teach a scope and sequence according to the development needs of our students, especially in the lower grades. Yes, we are a team at Ruben Chavira Elementary, and not just any team. We are a strong team, and with principals like you, we build more on this rock. You always have a smile on your face, and you always go to check on us before school starts and after school ends. And I don't mean the time, sir. You check on us because we need your smile. You indeed have built a positive morale within the school, regardless of the many changes the teachers are going through. As for your walkthroughs, we welcome them, for you know that your teachers are always on task. You surprise us with how knowledgeable you are with everyone's curriculum. From the bottom of our hearts at Ruben Chavira, we thank you for a job well done. Continue to support us, and you indeed will have successful learners because we are a team. Thank you, sir.
And now we would like to recognize principal of Cartwell Elementary, Mrs. Guanajuato Webb. We would like to call up Ms. Brijalva.
Superintendent Dr. Rios, Board President Mr. Garabedian, Board members, I, Melinda Brijalva, approach you with great pride. I stand before you to say but a few words on behalf of our director, Mrs. Linda Webb. Mrs. Webb, under your directorship and your leadership, our Head Start program has surpassed the norm of any Head Start program. Our program has been a recognized campus through the kinder readiness system, has surpassed the average scores in our federal reviews, and we have also received a $10,000 HEB Fitness Award through TEA in Active Life. In pursuit of not only school readiness, but in striving for college preparedness, our students not only receive classroom curriculum instruction, but enrichment and enhancement by means of our music lab, our science lab, and our technology lab. It is through these extended learning opportunities that our students are not only able to, but they're very eager and excited about participating in our annual science fair and our music fest that we have had about 2 years, in which they perform individually, independently, musically. Your superior leadership and advocacy have launched our program into the forefront in this region, making it a model program for other Head Start programs to follow. It is also through your highest expectations of your staff as professionals that many of us have pursued furthering our education and have received our master's degrees or in the works of doing so. We are extremely proud to serve our students, our families, and our community under your directorship. Mrs. Webb, on behalf of your staff at Cardwell Head Start, we thank you with the utmost of appreciation for your leadership of our Head Start program.
Good work.
Okay, and now we'll continue recognizing our secondary principals, and we'll start with our Student and Guidance Learning Center, our principal, Mr. Cabello. And Ms. Lynn Dutton will come and say some few words.
Immediately upon his arrival this year to SGLC, Mr. Cabello set a positive tone for our campus by giving importance, a sense of belonging, and recognizing the value of his staff to the school district. I believe his common sense approach on how a school should operate and his keen eye in making effective improvements on what is already working is just one of his many keys to being successful as our principal. Mr. Cabello's true strength is making time for you, no matter if you're a student or a staff member. The students appreciate and value his wanting to know them personally. They see him as being a real person and believe that he deals with them fairly and justly. I even heard one of them comment that he didn't want to disappoint Mr. Cabello, so he had to be careful in the choices he made when he returned to his home campus so that he wouldn't be sent back and let Mr. Cabello down. Wow, that's a major statement from some of our students. As our kids would say, Mr. Cabello rocks.
And now we'd like to recognize from San Felipe Middle School, Mr. Ramos. And Mrs. Leal will come and read some words.
Good evening, Mr. Garavidian and Dr. Rios and school board members. My name is Marianela Leal. I'm a proud educator at San Felipe Memorial Middle School. I'm here today on behalf of my colleagues to acknowledge and praise our campus administrator, Mr. Pablo Ramos. His hard work and dedication to ensure that our students receive the quality education to prepare them and make them successful in whatever they pursue is recognizable. His approachable personality and willingness to embark on any adventure that will contribute to the success and well-being of our staff, students, and campus makes him a remarkable leader. Today, we would like to express our gratitude for all that he does and brings to San Felipe Memorial Middle School. Mr. Ramos, thank you for all your hard work, dedication, and leadership. Thank you.
Okay, and now we have from Del Rio Middle School, Mrs. Gomez. And we'll welcome Mrs. Hasu, who will come up and read some words.
Good evening.
I once heard from a wise person that God has a special place in heaven for middle school teachers. If this is true, then he surely must have a gold seat waiting for our boss, Principal Mrs. Gomez. Too often, we do not realize the challenges and roadblocks a principal is faced with, but Ms. Gomez picks up the torch willingly every day, keeping the destination for our students and staff in mind. She shows the love for her job in her dedication to making our school a place not only for our students to feel at home, but the staff as well. Tonight, on behalf of Del Rio Middle School students and staff, I would like to recognize our principal, Ida Gomez, for her hard work and dedication to our campus, where we develop a foundation for future goals, we remain true to ourselves, our beliefs and dreams, we maintain a positive attitude and mind, and we always strive for success. Thank you.
At this moment, we would like to recognize Del Rio Freshman School Principal, Mr. Limon. And Mrs. Salinas will come and read a few words about Mr. Limon.
Good evening, Board President, Dr. Rios, and board members. Mr. Jorge Limon. Mr. Limon has made the transition from elementary to secondary principal with a tremendous amount of positive energy. I must say, on his first day, he was quite apprehensive, to the point of a breakdown, when our student body didn't have to line up to be released. The elementary control was gone, just like that. He is visible in the hallways, classrooms, courtyard, and cafeteria. He greets students and makes contacts as needed. He even attempts to eat with teachers during lunch, when and if his schedule allows. He has an open door policy, which is inviting to the entire staff. We consider our campus a family, and we are encouraged by his positive energy that our campus will be even better. We are looking forward to a great year, and remember, it starts here, and it starts now.
And now we have Del Rio High School Principal, Dr. Sally Zuniga Barrera. And Coach McCray will share a few words.
Sorry, I was like,
What have they done to you, okay?
Good evening to President Garabedian, Dr. Rios, and to the school board trustees. Thank you for this opportunity to address you this evening. It is with great honor that I stand before you today to express my words of appreciation towards my principal, Dr. Sally Zuniga Barrera. When she first arrived to the campus, I had the privilege of being one of the first to meet her in the office, and I told her that I would do anything I can to make her stay pleasant and to support her. She said the same thing to me, and with that, she has done so. She has supported us 100% in school and outside of school. She has been there for us during victory and defeat. She encourages our students every day, and she takes the time to listen to their stories and even give aid when necessary. She cares for each and every student equally and does all she can to lend them a hand. She is a motivator, an educator, and a leader. She is always willing to talk to me when I'm down or frustrated. She always has words of wisdom to motivate me to keep striving to be excellent. She also is has one of the most positive outlooks in life, which makes her a wonderful person to be around. I always know that in the fourth quarter of every football game, I can look to see her coming to the sideline to be with me and my team, and it brings joy and satisfaction to know that win or lose, everything will be all right. I'm very proud to have her as my principal and to call her my friend. Thank you for all that you do, Dr. Sally Zuniga Barrera. I call her Dr. B.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thanks. Thank you. This is nice, so we can be motivated to come back for the second semester. Thank you so much, Mr. Miss. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Congratulations. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
In closing, I would also like to say to all these wonderful principals, from Head Start to high school, you have inspired our kids to be the best that they can be. Your work might seem to go unnoticed, but it's never in vain. A wise author once wrote, "Be not weary in well-doing, for in due season you shall reap." It is you and the work that you do that shall see our kids succeed, not just in school, but in life. Thank you for all that you do. I would like to thank Dr. Garza for allowing me this opportunity to speak towards my principal. And again, I say thank you, President, Dr. Rios, and School Board for allowing us to honor our leaders. Thank you.
I would like to thank the board for allowing us the opportunity to recognize our principals. Very few people experience what a principal goes through every day, and I often tell them, all you have to do is look in the phone book, and there's a lot of doctors, and there's a lot of lawyers, and there's a lot of every profession, but there's just a few principals that are responsible for the leadership of this community in terms of their child's education. What you do goes above and beyond what words can express gratitude for, but we thank you for coming to work every day. A lot of us know what you go through. We encourage you to keep it up. We'll stop by your campuses tomorrow and deliver a treat for you, your assistant principals, to share with your faculty. Thank you, and let's keep doing the good work. Thank you, sir.
That brings us to agenda item 5. A, overview of School First Financial Integrity Rating System of Texas. Our CFO, Yanakani Valdez, is presenting.
Good evening, Mr. Garabedian, Dr. Rios, board members. We will begin with the public hearing for our first rating.
Somebody close the door, please.
Sandra. Okay. All right.
Before you, there's a packet, a copy of the presentation that was placed at your seating. But we will start with the public hearing.
This is the 11th year of School First, which is the financial accountability rating system of Texas, and this is for Texas school districts. The primary goal of School First is to achieve quality performance in the management of school districts' financial resources. The highest award of recognition is Superior Achievement. Our district has received that recognition, and it has received it for the last 11 years. Every district is required to provide a management report to the public, which is an overview of School First, and present the district ratings provided by TEA with additional information that's considered as disclosures. We also have to allow for public comments. The public hearing must be published in the newspaper, and the dates that the meeting was published was September 29th and October 6th. I will begin by reading each indicator. Indicator number 1 was total fund balance less non-spendable and restricted fund balance greater than 0 in the general fund. The answer is yes. The August 31st, 2012 general fund balance less non-spendable and restricted, which is Exhibit C1 of our audit books, had a fund balance of $48,117,648. Indicator number 2 was the total unrestricted net assets balance in the governmental activities column in the statement of net assets greater than 0. The answer is yes. The August 31st, 2012 governmental activities net asset balance, which is Schedule A1, was $56,807,278. Indicator number 3. Were there no disclosures in the annual financial report and/or other sources of information concerning default on bond indebtedness obligations? The answer is yes, there were no disclosures. The district was able to make all bond payments. Indicator number 4 was the annual financial report filed within 1 month after the November 27 or January 28th deadline. Ours would be January 28th, depending upon the district's fiscal year end date. Our fiscal year end date is August 31st. The answer is yes. The annual financial report was approved by the Board of Trustees on December 19, 2012, and electronically submitted to TEA on December 20, 2012. Indicators 5 and 6. Was there an unqualified opinion in the annual financial report? The answer is yes. The annual financial report for 2012 was submitted with an unqualified opinion. Indicator number 6. Did the annual financial report not disclose any instances of material weakness in internal controls? The answer is yes. Leal and Carter, the district's external auditors, reported no material weaknesses in the 11-12 audit. The indicators from now on are based on a point system. The first 6 were based on yes or no responses. Indicator number 7 was the 3-year average percent of total tax collections, including delinquent, greater than 98%. We received 5 points, and our 3-year average was 98.18%. Indicator number 8. Did the comparison of PEMS data to like information in the annual financial report
result in an aggregate variance of less than 3% of expenditures per fund type. This is how they measure our data quality, and we received 5 points. There was a 0.0003% variance. Indicator number 9. Were debt-related expenditures less than $350 per student. For indicator number 9, we received 5 points. Our spending per student was $188.92. There was an increase to the prior year, but the manner in which this formula is calculated, the 11-12 and 12-13 school years were the years that we received a reduction in state funding, and which affected this calculation. So for next year, you will see a similar number. Indicator number 10, was there no disclosures in the annual audit report of material non-compliance? We received 5 points. There was no reports. There was no disclosures of material non-compliance. Indicator number 11, did the district have full accreditation status in relation to financial management practices? We received 5 points, and the district did have full accreditation. Indicator number 12, was the aggregate of budgeted expenditures and other uses less than the aggregate of total revenues, other resources, and fund balance in general fund? We received 5 points. The district's total expenditures did not exceed revenue plus fund balance. Indicator number 13, is the district's aggregate fund balance in the general fund and capital projects fund. It was if the district's aggregate fund balance in the general fund and capital projects fund was less than 0, were construction projects adequately financed. We received 5 points, and our construction projects were adequately funded. Indicator number 14, was the ratio of the cash and investments to deferred revenues in the general fund greater than or equal to a 1-to-1 ratio? We received 5 points. The cash balance exceeded deferred revenues, including delinquent taxes and our projected penalties and interest. Indicator number 15, was the administrative cost ratio less than the historic standard in state law? We received 5 points. Our ratio was 0.0931, and the limit set by TEA for this indicator is 0.125. Indicator number 16, was the ratio of students to teachers within the ranges shown according to the district size. For a district our size, with enrollment of over 10,000, the ratio is 13.5 to 22. We received 5 points. Our ratio was 15.92. Indicator number 17, was the ratio of students to total staff within the ranges according to the district size. Again, our district student ratio for over 10,000 is from 7 to 14. We received 5 points. Our ratio is 7.59. Indicator number 18, was the decrease in unassigned fund balance less than 20% over 2 fiscal years? We received 5 points. We did not have a decrease in fund balance. Indicator number 19, was the aggregate total of cash and investments in the general fund more than $0?
we received 5 points. The August 31st, 2012 general fund cash and investments balance on Schedule C1 was $47,822,766. Indicator number 20, where investment earnings in all funds meet or exceed the 3-month Treasury bill rate. We received 5 points. The average return for 2011-12 was .2807 versus the 3-month Treasury bill of .0592. We earned a total of 70 points, again placing us at a superior achievement for the 11th year and the 11th year of the first ratings. In addition to the district's financial management performance under each indicator, the Commissioner of Education also requires the following information for financial transparency, which includes our report disclosures, superintendent's contract, reimbursements to superintendent and board of trustees, outside compensation of superintendent, gifts of $250 or more to superintendent and board of trustees, district transactions with board of trustees, and summary schedule on financial solvency provisions. All of this information is located on our website along with this presentation. I will now take you all to that link to show you that information. Our information for FIRST is located under Finance, Accounting, and Budget Department. And if you scroll down to the bottom, way bottom, you have the FIRST 2013 rating for the 11-12 year. The very first item is the presentation we just saw. We also have the disclosures and the superintendent's contract. The information included in the indicators is for the 11-12 year. However, for the superintendent's contract, they require that you post the current superintendent's contract as of the release of the ratings. This is a report of disclosures. The very first item again being the superintendent's contract, which is located on our website. The reimbursements received by the superintendent and board members for fiscal year 2012. This would include any trips, meals, lodging, other internet. This is any reimbursements or expenses paid on behalf from the school district for board members and the superintendent. Since 2012 was an election year, we also included the reimbursements on behalf of the prior board members and superintendent. For outside compensation received, the information was 0. Gifts received by executive officer and board members, the responses were $0. Business transactions between school district and board members, the responses were 0. And the following statement is a disclosure for financial solvency. They require that we present the first quarter of our 2012-13 school year and answer the following questions in order to indicate whether we have any financial issues as of presenting this first rating. So the response is, have we, within the last 2 years, did the school district draw funds from a short-term financing note? The response is no. For the fiscal year, have a total general fund balance of less than 2% of total expenditures. For general fund function codes 11 through 61, the answer is no. Section C, has the school district declared financial exigency within The past 2 years, the answer is no. On section D, we do not, since we have not declared financial exigency, I just lost the word. We do not have an offsetting trend in any of our ratios. Question E, how many superintendents has your school district had in the last 5 years? The response is 3. And question F, how many business managers has your school district had in the past 5 years? Response is 2. That is all the information for the disclosures. We'll continue with the PowerPoint. At this-
3.82 you said?
I'm sorry?
The last question, the answer is 3.82? For how many, I'm sorry to interrupt,
Oh, no, that's fine.
this caught me off guard.
The number of financial, hold on, let me take it. Business managers was 2.
3?
3 superintendents and 2 financial
Okay, thank you.
managers. Oh, okay.
You're wrong. I heard you wrong.
Oh, I'm sorry. At this time, if we may open it up for public comments.
Are there any public comments pertaining to the overview of the first rating? Nope. No comments.
Any questions from the board?
Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Put money in the bank, okay.
Question?
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
We will now end the public hearing. Thank you very much.
Okay, that brings us to agenda item 6, board members' report. This was just an update for the board. A couple of meetings ago, we had mentioned the Federal Relations Network Conference, which is something that takes place each year. It's a venue for advocacy for federal monies, federal legislation, things of that nature. I remember, I think several of us had mentioned it, myself, Mr. Mesa, I think maybe Mr. Chavita. It's one of those things, if you followed it and if you're aware you have to apply for a stipend, you may or may not get selected. I did want to let you know I applied. They did notify me that I was selected. I haven't agreed yet. I wanted to let the board know. Any questions, comments, concerns? Okay. Moving on, agenda item 7. Reports, first one being A, Citizens Committee update. Dr. Rios, it's you.
Thank you, Mr. Garabedian, members of the board. At previous meetings, we've discussed building needs of the district, and tonight I just want to update y'all that attached to your packet is the list of Citizens Committee members that y'all have nominated, and that the directors of the various programs have nominated. This list is a comprehensive list of all committee members. We have also attached a calendar of when we're going to meet, beginning on October 30th, and, which will hopefully culminate with a presentation to the board on January 20th with recommendations. The dates are in the packet. The meetings will be facilitated by the superintendent and the superintendent's cabinet. I would also like to extend an invitation for any board member that wants to sit in on the presentations. You're more than welcome to attend. And if there's any questions, I'll answer them now. Otherwise, that's all I have to report, sir.
Any questions?
Yes, all the meetings will begin at 5:30.
Anything else on this item? Okay, thank you, Dr. Rios. Agenda item 7B, attendance rates to date by school. Dr. Jorge Garza and Aide Garcia presenting.
Good evening, Mr. Garavitian, Dr. Rios, members of the board. We're here to present the attendance for our school district and campuses. On this first slide, as you recall, you approved the campus performance objectives and district performance objectives. And on the district performance objectives for attendance, our goal is 96.95%. So that is our goal for the year. For the first 6 weeks, we ended at 97.54% as the district attendance. Last year, for the first 6 weeks, we were at 97.78. And for the 2012-2013 school year, we ended at 96.6%. Any questions on that slide?
Any questions?
So now we're going to go ahead and demonstrate the attendance for the elementary. And for elementary, we have each campus performance objective for each school and what the goal is for the end of the school year. And next to it in blue, we have the attendance rate for the end of the 6 weeks for each school. So for Buena Vista Elementary, the goal is 96.95, and as you can see, they surpassed it this year with 98.10. Dr. Calderon, 97.39 is the goal, and the end of the 6 weeks is 97.74. Ruben Chavira, 97.63 is the goal, and we're at 97.91. Garfield, the goal is 97.38, and we're at 98.33. Sorry. Okay. Then Irene Cardwell School, the goal is 95.5, and we're at 95.85. Lamar, the goal is 97.95, and we're at 98.54. Dr. Lonnie Green Elementary, the goal is 97.45, and we're at 98.5. North Heights Elementary, the goal is 97.24, and we're at 97.82. Any questions on the elementary attendance? Okay, thank you.
Mr. Garavitian, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. We continue with secondary. Same thing for the CPO for San Felipe Memorial Middle School is 96.95. They achieved at 97.60. Del Rio Middle School is 97.10. They are at 97.89. Del Rio Freshman School is 96.65, and they finished at 96.75. And Del Rio High School is at 95.75, and they finished at 96.52. Any questions on that slide? The next slide will show the average, the total average. The first column is the actual report for the district, and that's the line. The red line is showing that anyone above is above the district average, and anyone below is below the district average. Any questions on this slide?
No questions for Dr. Garza?
Dr. Garza, on the attendance, when do we not count the student, at what time? Or when do we count it, at what time we don't count them? The reason I'm saying is for parents, sometimes it might be late, sometimes, when is it that we need to bring them to school so they can be counted?
All right, so there is two different items that you need to know. One is for credit base, they need to be present at that particular period. First period, second period, third period. For credit base, like at secondary. For ADA purposes, this school year at secondary level, we have it at second period. And there is a snapshot that we're taking within that period, at second period. At elementary, it's at 10 o'clock. They have to be present at 10 o'clock. for ADA purposes, which is what we're reporting right here.
Yeah, it's important for them to know.
Any other questions?
Could you go back to the comparisons from last year to this year? On the high school, on the secondary.
Okay, once again, these are the approved CPOs. We're comparing them to CPOs. So if you look at the high school, it's a 95.75, the CPO that we should be reaching this year. Their attendance right now is at 96.52.
What's the rationale for the lower? I mean, I know they're meeting their goal. But I would think the smaller kids would be more ill.
I'm not sure your question, ma'am.
Well, if you go to the comparison throughout all of the schools, the next slide, I believe, you'll see that the freshman high school, besides Irene Cardwell, are lower, significantly lower than the rest of the campuses. Is that
The question is, what is the difference between secondary and elementary?
No, it's significantly lower than the average. So we're already starting out low, and then we still have, flu season, holidays.
Right. There is a variety of reasons why secondary is lower than elementary all the time. One, and this is speculation, is because at elementary, you go all the way to 10 o'clock. At secondary, in ADA purposes, because this is the data, it's the second period. So you only have one opportunity at the high school, which is second period. At elementary, is all the way to 10 o'clock, which gives you more opportunity. One thing that we're doing, and let me just, if you allow me, let me just say one more thing. What we're doing at the secondary campuses, for example, at first period, whoever's absent first period, there is constant phone calls to see if we can get them on board by the end of first period. And that's exactly what's happening at elementary also. It's just unfortunate that they have all the way to 10 o'clock to bring them in and give them more time to be there. And it's a little bit different because at elementary, you have a parent that's actually bringing the child to school. At secondary, the child is at home and the parent is probably at work. That's one difference, but it's not an excuse. That's a big significance.
What time is second period?
Second period is between 8:47 and 9:31.
So it's 30 minutes before the elementary.
But they are working extremely hard first period to get these kids to come in before the end of that second period.
Who does the call-in? Is it automation or?
No, sir. For example, at high school, they get a list at the beginning of first period within the 10 minutes, and then the list is distributed throughout all the secretaries or different personnel amongst the office, and they make a personal phone call to try to get the students in. Same thing at ninth grade, and I believe it's the same thing at the other two schools. And then there is an automatic dialer that calls also throughout the day.
I'm glad that Mrs. Lozano brought this up because, it is the start of it's the first 6 weeks, and I think we brought up the issue before where there's schools that they have it so organized that they catch students between periods that skip out, and I think it's an excellent opportunity at the start of the year to address this because we don't want for it to be consistently low. We realize Head Start is always, this is, it's difficult there because of the age group and so forth. But I think what's critical is, the ADA, refined ADA, and then, that's where we have the most students not receive credit, starting with freshman school all the way up to high school. So I think it's imperative that we stay with this, and I'm glad that it's, it's being paid attention because it's something it is serious. And I think, I wish we could just do what other high schools are doing because we have brought programs in the past from conferences that we have attended, that they have it so together that they catch a student the following day and bring them up and say, you were here first period, you skipped second and third, and you were here fourth. Where were you?
Right.
And catch them right away. But like my colleagues here, I don't want to wait the whole year and then find out that, we have so many students that did not graduate, or so many students that did not gain their credit, and so they have to stay at freshman and so forth.
Right.
It's low.
One more question.
Yes, ma'am.
What does the attendance look like in other periods throughout the day? I know this is a snapshot for ADA. I mean, because it's
Right. And I'm
very
not.
well known the time attendance is taken. So if a child is minutes late, then they're not counted.
I'm not sure, but I'll answer the first question first. I don't want to guess at the numbers. I don't want to tell you that there is a certain percentage for second period, third period, or whatever period, but there is a way to tell how many students are absent throughout the day.
That would address Mr.
Right.
Wilson's issue.
Right, and there is a way to tell how many students are missing third period or fourth period. I will tell you, Mr. Mesa, that there is a lot of difference this year in comparison to last year because of a plan of action that the schools have implemented of exactly what every person's going to do. And the most significant one that all the schools are doing is reconciling the list. A lot of the attendance sometimes happens because of the coding issue. For example, if a student is at the nurse's office, we want to make sure that if they're in the nurse's office second period, we're reconciling those lists and bringing them back to the main office so that we can change that attendance. Because the student was really at campus. He was there. He was present. So we reconcile those lists to make sure. So there is different steps that we're doing for ADA purposes. And above that, the high school and the freshman is doing things to make sure that we get the credits. If nothing else, we provide the makeup days so that they can get the credit for that class, especially when they're passing the course. And it has gotten a lot better for credit purposes. And ADA we're working on it. We have a plan of action this year.
I think Dr. Rios has something to add.
Yeah, anything that I say, I certainly don't want anybody to construe it as an excuse for the high school, because it's not. We love for our kids to be here 100% of the time. But I can tell you with a high degree of certainty that high schools across the state experience lower attendance rates than other schools within their district, mainly because in elementary, a parent, unfortunately, so many of our parents have to work and can't be there. For them to allow their students to stay home is difficult because they don't have a babysitter there at home. Our schools are the primary caregivers during the day. For secondary students, it's a lot easier for this child to stay home. So we're always going to experience lower attendance rates at the secondary level than we are at the elementary level, and particularly at the high school. Now, having said that, we have a plan of action to make sure that our attendance rates, don't continue to decrease 6 weeks by 6 weeks as it goes on, as we traditionally see. But we are working on a report where we compare our high school attendance rate to the attendance rate of the 40 schools like us, and I am confident that when we put that report together, you're going to see that our high school here in Del Rio is better than most schools that we're compared to. Our high school will have a higher attendance rate than most of the 40 schools. Having said all that, we still want to keep working on improving, and yes, we can always do better. But I certainly don't want for the community to think that we have a problem that is only specific to Del Rio High School. No, we want to do better because our kids deserve better, because our community deserves better. But make no mistake about it, the attendance rate at Del Rio High School is higher than most of the high schools within our comparison group. So we are doing something right. We are moving in the right direction, but we can still do better, and we recognize that. Thanks, sir.
Other questions? Dr. Rios? Or for Dr. Garza?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, that brings us to agenda item 7C, which was discipline report to date by school, but administration informed me that they noticed some errors and information that they need to rework, so they're not comfortable with what they have. They don't want to present it at this time until they get those things fixed, but we know, of course, the board's interest in that, so since it is a significant report, I motion to table it to the next available regular meeting. Do that. Is there a second? Ms. Haynes, a second. All in favor, table to the next regular meeting? It's unanimous. Motion carries. If you'll bring that back to the appropriate time. Okay, that brings us to agenda item 7D, update of district performance objectives. Dr. Carlos Rios presenting.
Thank you, Mr. Garabedian, members of the board. Over the summer, we worked on a scale that would lead us to achieve maximum potential within a 5-year period. We brought to the board some district performance objectives and campus performance objectives, and I also indicated at the time that we would make reports on the progress towards meeting those objectives. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to review for you the district performance objectives as a result of the last assessment. There are 4 indices which the state is going to report on. Today, we're able to report on Index 1, 3, and 4. Index 2 is just a really convoluted type of formula that only the state understands, and we can't generate that through DMAC, but we will report on Index 1, 3, and 5. On Index 1, the goal within 5 years is to reach 90%. With that in mind, we've scaled up the performance over that 5-year period. In reading for the district, our goal this year is 79%. After the first round of assessments, we're at 44%. I want to remind everyone that this is a summative goal, which means at the end of the year. 44% may seem low, but if you'll wait till the end of the presentation, I'll show you where that, in fact, is progress over last year. Math, 78, we're at 57. Writing, 67%, we're at 48. Science at 79, and we're at 51. And again, social studies, 75, and we're at 60. Okay. I'm not going to go in detail over the next ones unless you have specific questions, but you could see. Well, this is Index 3. I will talk about this. In Index 3, our goal again is to have 90% at Level 2 and 35% at Level 3. Level 3 is that commended performance. Our economically disadvantaged students at Level 2, we've already shown that. That's 43% with a goal of 78% in reading. The important one here is on the Level 3, because that's so seldom discussed, we want to get to 18%, and we're at 12% this year, grading our exams at a Level 3. That's significant progress because we have the rest of the year to gain that 6%, which will clearly surpass anything that we did last year. For our Hispanic students at Level 3, we had 14% of our students score at the commended level. Our goal for this year is 19%. I'm confident that if we continue in this trend, we will more than likely exceed our goals for students performing at Level 3. The big one is writing, and I'll come to that next. Dr. Garza? This is math. Same results. You can see that our goal is 17%. We're at 16% for Eco-Dis. For Hispanic, it's 18%, where our goal was 18%. And for our white population, it's 28%, and I believe that's where we're at this year. Writing. For our economically disadvantaged, wherever you see a 12% as a goal, that means that we were at 0 last year. This year, after our first assessment, we had 12% of our economically disadvantaged students score at a commended level. We were at 0 last year. Hispanic students, 14%. We probably had around 2% last year. Our goal is 13%. If we continue on that trend, we will exceed our goal. And again, our Anglo population, 17% is the goal, and we're, I believe it says 26%. Science, the same. You can see where we're getting close to our goal. The problem, of course, comes in the students performing at level 2. There's still some room to grow, but this is the first 6 weeks. Social studies, we've done pretty good in terms of having this kid score at the level 3. Reading, done really well in most cases. You can see that, I'm sorry, this is index 4. Index 4 just measures the level 3, and you can see where we've done really well in most cases. In some areas, we still have areas to grow. Special ed is a concern, and ELL is a concern. But you can see that ELL, it's 12% is our goal, which indicates that last year we were at 0%. So we're confident that we're taking the right steps and moving in the right direction. For math, you'll see the same trends. Special ed continues to be an area of concern. ELLs, however, did really well this last assessment. Writing, you can see the 12%, which means we were at 0 both in our ELL and our economically disadvantaged. We've worked towards that goal. Economic disadvantage with our ELL, we have room to grow. In special ed, we have room to grow. The other groups, they're very small. For example, we list Asian group there, but we have a very small Asian population. Science level 3, the results mirror. Again, special ed continues to be a concern. Social studies, probably where we've had the strongest performance. Okay, now, the data that we showed you show where we're working towards that summative goal at the end of the year of meeting the campus performance objective. We're not there, but it is a progress over the next few assessments. The important thing that I want to highlight to everyone is that the assessments that the students have been taking this year very much go hand in hand with the type of assessment and the level of rigor that the state is going to be assessing our students at. So with a high degree of confidence, I can tell you that the assessments that the students took this year were written at a more rigorous level than they were last year. And still at a more rigorous level, I'm going to show you where in most areas the students outperformed last year's group. I'll mention that in a minute. Where you see the blue is where the students were last year at this time, and the red is where the students are this year. And you can see that in most areas, we're up and to the right. Kinder phonics, 73% this year, 79%. And then all the way over to the right, first writing, we're 80% last year, this year it's 79%. Again, very similar, but it's with a more rigorous test. You can see the same trend throughout. This is third grade assessment, second, third grade, same thing. In most cases, you're going to see up and to the right. And there are some areas where it's not up, but I remind everyone that it's a more rigorous test that we gave our students this year. Fourth through fifth, in most cases, up and to the right. Now you'll notice at the far right hand for fifth grade writing, there was no test administered last year, not this year. Sixth grade, up and to the right. They're very close in reading. Seventh grade, you can see where, now they've taken two assessments. They take what we call a blue and white assessment. Blue at the 3-week mark and white at the 6-week mark. And you can see that, again, it is a more rigorous test, but still we see growth in a lot of areas. 8th grade math. 9th grade. That's their 10th grade. And in those areas where we only have a red bar, that's because we've only assessed it this year. Now, the data that we show, I want to make it very clear. It shows results for areas where the state doesn't assess. It doesn't just limit it to where the state is going to be assessing this. And I say that just to make it clear that we're interested in the entire curriculum, not just in teaching to the tested curriculum. No, we're giving you reports on all our data, and we're assessing everywhere we're teaching core classes. I'm sorry, the other part that I was reminded of, it appears that the state assessment is going to stay at the same standard as last year, which is level 1. They were going phase 1. They were going to phase in phase 1 last year, phase 2 this year. Now there's talks about the state remaining at phase 1 of the standard. We are assessing or grading our tests at phase 2, which is at the much higher level. We're doing that for a couple reasons. One, the state really hasn't decided. They haven't come out formally and said, we're staying with phase 1. So we want to be prepared. We don't want to take any chances. The second reason we're doing it is that because even if they stay at phase 1, even if they come out next month and say, hey, we're staying at phase 1, we're still going to stay grading our test at phase 2, simply because we don't know, although we know that our tests are more rigorous than last year, we don't exactly know the level of rigor that the state's going to be using because we don't have those type of resources. We don't have Pearson writing the test for us. So therefore, we're grading at a little bit higher mark than we expect so that we don't, I guess, paint a better picture than what may be the reality. So we're being cautious about that. That's it, sir. If there's any questions.
Questions for Dr. Rios? Okay. Thank you. Agenda item 7E, District Security and Safety Update. Mr. Johnny Sheedy. Presenting.
Give me one moment to get our
While we're waiting for Mr. Sheedy, if nobody minds, Mr. Mesa changed the AC. It was getting really cold for me.
Appreciate it, Mr. Mesa.
Thank you, Mr. Mesa. I think we were all thinking the same thing.
I'm ready, sir.
Ready? Okay. We're ready for Mr. Sheedy? Okay, Mr. Sheedy.
Great. Mr. Garabedian, Superintendent Rios, board members, and administrators, good evening. Superintendent Rios has asked me to make a brief presentation about the ongoing activities we've been involved in since the new Director of Emergency Operations was hired in June. And I can tell you there has been a lot of activity. We've been moving in a lot of different directions, and we've made some considerable advancements. So much so, in fact, that we won't have time to present them all this evening, but the superintendent has asked us to be prepared for further presentations in the future, and we'll be happy to do so. I think the most important thing for us to talk about first is that the question that personnel should be asking ourselves is not if the disaster happens, but when the disaster happens. Are we as a district campus prepared? You know, it could be 10 minutes from now, it could be 10 days, it could be months, it could be 10 years. But I think it's very safe to say that it's extremely likely that our district's planning and response capabilities will be challenged at some point in the future. And so obviously we want to take the time now to prepare for those because the clock is ticking. I think it's important where it all begins. I really do believe that our community looks to our district leaders, including our board members and our superintendent, to lead the effort and to ensure that we are actively pursuing measures to enhance the safety and security of our students. And without that support, leadership and encouragement, it would be very difficult for us. And I do believe that the board and superintendent have shown their commitment to that issue when they have hired additional staff to focus on that area. So thank you for taking those steps. The first thing we're going to talk about, we're going to attempt to follow the two laws, the two codes that address our emergency preparedness activities in the district. The Texas Education Code 37108, the Multi-Hazard Emergency Operations Plan, Security and Safety Audit. Each school district must have a multi-hazard emergency operations plan for the district facilities, and it needs to address all four of the categories: preparing, prevention, response, and recovery. This is really the single document, the emergency operations plan is a single document that we put all of our efforts into, all of our planning, everything that we create goes in there, and a lot of the things that are developed from that we take and utilize. So what we'll do is we'll just take a look at the one we've been working on here. This is for Lonnie Green, our emergency operations plan, campus emergency operations plan. If it'll open. We're very excited. We've developed a new format. We're putting these into a flip book, an HTML5 format, and we believe that this will facilitate much greater updating and managing of all these documents. Plus, it will allow us to easily distribute them across all kind of technology, computers, internet, online, smartphones. So this is the plan that, and you'll see it's a flip book, and we've worked very hard to get one campus completed. And we started with Lonnie Green, and they've been wonderful at Lonnie Green, helping us get everything prepared. As you can see, there's maps. We have contact information. It's exciting to use this format again. Here's where we talk about all the particular incidences. But these are searchable. I know right before I left, Dr. Aguirre came in and was asking about special needs. And this will take us right to some special needs students and some issues that we have with special needs. So again, we believe that this format that we're using will be extremely beneficial to us in the long run. It's a little top heavy. It's a little heavy in the design part, but of course we believe that it'll pay off in the long run. So that's the plan that we'll be utilizing. We do want to make sure that we'll have one of those plans for each one of our 12 campuses, plus we'll have a district plan that'll be much more involved and have annexes and some additional information. The next thing we talk about is our district employee training and responding to an emergency. Obviously, planning and training go hand in hand. Without one, the other is severely compromised. So we've taken steps to look at planning. The first thing we're doing is looking at the NIMS, which is NIMS is the National Incident Management System that all federal state agencies are mandated to train, and we are working across the district to develop our training for district employees. It's an online course. This is where you would take the course. We've actually requested from HR and received a listing of all district employees, and I've gone through and attempted to reconcile based on the advanced levels of training they would need, every position, and all these black areas over here ultimately will be cleared up as we are able to get that training completed. And we will coordinate, as we train district employees through NIMS, we will coordinate, monitor, and schedule all of that training. The thing that we've started on first, that we focused on, are the assistant principals and the principals. Again, working with the principals, they're really our rubber meets the road people. They control the teachers who control the student body, which is the largest group of people. So we've put together the training program here for the principals and assistant principals. Here's the IS 700 Introduction to NIMS, and all the principals, all the assistant principals, and then we get into IS 100 SCA for schools. And so we will walk all of our principals and assistant principals through those certifications. We will continue to develop presentations to campus staff. We will work on exercises. I hope on facilitating at least one or two tabletops a month, and of course possibly more, and that could be anything from 3 or 4 of us sitting together with a principal and some of their staff to obviously more large scale. We'll try and do a functional exercise at least one per quarter. That's our goal. The next thing we look at are the mandatory drills and exercises to prepare our district students and employees. And this is just the schedule, an online schedule that we've built for them. This is Buena Vista, and you can see we've put the mandatory drills. Each zero needs to turn into a one. It's a self-calculating spreadsheet, and this is available for administrative review to make sure that we are being compliant, and everybody's been wonderful with compliance. This is the emergency drill training that we've done. I think of all the training, of all the things we look at, the biggest bang for the buck comes from our drill training, because obviously we're able to train the largest group of people for the most likely scenarios with the least amount of effort. So we've been training our schools on the proper way to conduct drills. Again, I've made this presentation to most of the campuses, many of them twice. Most of the staff has received the presentation. Again, it's just this is what they've received. We've made it available for them. We take them through the steps of what they need to do. We've created at a glance, kind of a step them through, and this is what we've been training all the campus staff on their drills, which also becomes part of our EOP. And then we've been doing a lot of training at the campuses again, and we put together a short video to show you kind of what we've been up to out there at the campuses, and let you look at the involvement of the student staff and what's going on. Of our emergency drills, the requirements, and a real brief rundown of what all is involved and what we want our teachers and staff to be aware of.
All staff and students, please begin lockdown procedures.
We'll come in first and we'll turn the lights on. How's everybody doing? Oh my goodness, you guys are so quiet. I didn't even know everybody was in here. Can we turn the lights on real fast? Everybody did such a wonderful job. So you'll have 9 months you have to do a fire drill, minimum of 1. Then there are 4 other type drills. There's a lockdown drill, there's a severe weather drill, shelter-in-place drill, and reverse evacuation drill. All again required. Good job, you guys.
Please excuse interruption. Just a real quick announcement. I wanted to congratulate you, boys and girls, and staff, teachers. Thank you for such a job well done. It took us about 1 minute and 45 seconds. We do need to get faster. However, we did great for it to have been our first one. So great job. Just a reminder, we need to close doors behind us. As soon as possible. I know we have some crowding in certain areas, so we need to take a look at that. But remember, our job is to get our students out as soon as possible in an orderly, quiet, swift fashion, please. Thank you very much. Y'all did an awesome job. Congratulations.
That's very looking perfect. I want to walk into one classroom. If you can take me into one classroom real fast, if we'll get them to. Okay.
Lights are off at this time.
Doors are locked, lights are off.
Teacher and students are in the corner.
Okay, could we turn the lights on? Everybody, we're just checking, see how everybody's doing. Everybody's doing such a good job.
Attention staff and students, at this time, we have completed our lockdown drill. Thank you and have a fabulous day.
And I do want to say thank you to all the principals. They have been, I mean, my hat's off to them. They're just such an amazing group of people, and they have been so helpful and so cooperative, and they've found time out of their day. And they've done a fantastic job. I'm looking forward to, we've come a long way. I'm looking forward to moving further as we continue to develop. We continue to go down this road. We've had a lot of assistance from our Chief Operations Officer, Mr. Mike Salinas, has kind of got me on the ground running. Chief Haynes has helped me, been working with Chief Haynes, and it's been a pleasure working with all the district personnel, and I look forward to continue to hopefully create some plans that will be among some of the best plans that any district has in the state, and I think we can do that.
Looks great, thank you.
Questions, Mr. Sheedy? Mr. Mesa?
Mr. Sheedy, there's some schools that I hope we can think about, those schools that have like just one entrance and one exit. For example, Lonnie Green, Del Rio Middle School, Calderon. In case of a mass evacuation, that we could find an alternate route. I know that, for example, this area is very congested. If something were to happen where, and I don't want to say hazardous material because 18-wheelers are not coming through here, but some other type of serious catastrophe that could occur in that road where there's no other road to take, that maybe some alternate routes could be looked at. I know that when you look at Lonnie Green, there's a development back there and it's fenced off. And then you look at this side and you have the university, and it's kind of a no outlet area. And so maybe you can look at those areas and come up with something in need of a true event if it ever does happen. I hope it doesn't, but I think of Del Rio Middle School the same way, where there's no other way except just the highway entrance. And if that were to be blocked off, what other street could you take? There could possibly be the area of UPS, and just alternate routes for those schools that don't have the privilege of having, the streets everywhere.
That's a very good point, Mr. Mesa, and we have looked at that. As a matter of fact, working with Lonnie Green, we've developed, it was in the map there, we have a primary and a secondary evacuation route. Obviously, our secondary evacuation route would be out back on the backside. And on the front part, of course, obviously, we're trying to get our shelter and our one of the main places we would need to get that school to would be the Civic Center. We've had a struggle of looking at where would we have enough, we want to find these places where we can shelter our students, but Del Rio has so few other areas where we could actually shelter enough students. So we would get them on over to the Civic Center. Some schools are a little bit more of a concern. We talk about Calderon and middle school. They're closer to the railroad tracks, and obviously for hazmat situations. But we are looking at those suggestions that you make, how we could go on out the back and try and look at anything we could do. It would be wonderful at Lonnie Green, for example, if we had one way out on the backside, but of course we don't have that yet. But we are looking at those, sir, I assure you. We'll look at each campus and try and make sure we have every evacuation route.
Good.
planned.
Thank you.
Other questions? Comments? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. That brings us to agenda item 8, which is the consent agenda. Before we take any action, there's a couple of things to point out. First off, administration is recommending that we pull and not act on F1, which is purchase order over $25,000, consideration of approved purchase order over $25,000 for 3 new buses, amount not to exceed committed funds. Apparently there's more information needed, correct, Dr. Rios, and some more work to do on that. And the other one that they're requesting be pulled is H1, and that is second reading and adoption of policy revisions. Consideration of approved second reading of DEC local policy. There's still some more research and consideration administration would like to do based on some individual board members' feedback. So we're going to take those off of the consent agenda. When we act on it to approve, those are not included. Everybody understand?
I caught the first one, Mr. Garabedian. What was the second one?
The second one was H1, which is the second reading and adoption, consideration of approved second reading of DEC local policy. So again, we're going to pull F1 and H1. They'll come back at a later date. Ms. Falcone, did you get that in your notes? Okay. Okay, with that said and that understood, does any board member wish to pull any items from the consent agenda for discussion? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda? Mr. Overfelt has motion, Mr. Chavita has second. All in favor by a show of hands? It's unanimous, motion carries. Brings us to agenda item 9, citizens to be heard. Excuse me, donations? Oh, that's right. Very good, Mr. Overfelt. Mr. Overfelt has reminded me, fortunately, that we need to recognize the donations that were part of the consent agenda. So, Mr. Overfelt, if you will do the honors, please.
Sure thing. Donations this evening. Target Corporation in the amount of $40.30 to Lamar Elementary. The Delaware Rams Football Booster Club in the amount of $2,991.82 to Delaware High School Football. Target Corporation again in the amount of $76.57 to Delaware High School. Target Corporation in the amount of $63.55 in the amount, to Ruben Chavita Elementary. Track and Snacks Incorporated, $650 to Delaware High School Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America. Funding Factory, in the amount of $66.20 to Delaware High School. Walmart, in the amount of $1,500 to Ruben Chavita Elementary. And then in non-monetary donations, the Delaware Host Lions Club is donating toothbrushes valued at $1,155 to the first graders at Dr. Fermin Calderon Elementary, North Heights Elementary, and Lamar Elementary. The Buena Vista PTO is donating a climbing and traverse wall valued at $11,335.04 to be installed in the new Buena Vista Elementary gym. And then Laughlin Air Force Base Youth Center is donating PE equipment valued at $1,000 to Lamar Elementary.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Overfelt, for reminding me, and thank you to all those individuals that donated to the district. We appreciate it. Ms. Lozano, did you have something? You pointed something out?
Right, we failed to recognize that on Mr. Sheedy's presentation, young man Felix Rocha, Delaware High School student, I think he's in the 11th grade, provided, with the help of Google Earth, the photos for your presentation. Very nicely done. Thanks, Felix. I just
Okay, agenda item 9, citizens to be heard. No one? Okay, thank you. It's about 7:50, and we are now on agenda item 10, administration. Consideration to adopt the 2013-14 superintendent evaluation instrument as presented. Okay, in your packet, you have the proposed 2013-14 superintendent evaluation instrument. As you know, this has been a long process. To just kind of remind everyone for a moment, back in May, we revised the district goals and vision. From that point, Dr. Rios set to work on formulating performance goals, which would become one of the primary components of the instrument and the process by which he is evaluated. We moved forward with that. Those goals were adopted a couple months ago. Prior to that, we put together, presented to the board, an evaluation planning calendar, which has been used as kind of a blueprint to keep us on track. And on October the 12th, a couple of Saturdays ago, we held a workshop which followed up on those processes and steps that I just mentioned, where we took the sample S.F.D.R.C.I.S.D evaluation instrument, which is used extensively by districts across the state, which incorporates performance goals and the other facets of a superintendent's job description, and is also very neatly able to fit into the commissioner's recommended process. We worked on that in that workshop. There were suggestions, discussion, suggested edits and revisions, things of that nature. And what you're looking at in the board packet is the revised copy. Those of you that were at the workshop a couple weeks ago remember that we hand wrote the changes. They're here if anybody wants to see. I got everything. I checked, double checked, triple checked, made sure. There were a couple of things very of no substance, like a few grammar things like that that were added as well. Dr. Rios, of course, has been involved, as best practice dictates that he should be, giving also some suggestions and feedback in the process. To put this in complete context, following the commissioner's process, if we choose to do that, because as you know, according to board policy, that is one of the ways we can do it. There's also the worksheet, and the current worksheet is from November 2012, the commissioner's recommended student performance domain superintendent appraisal worksheet. There was an earlier edition, but that's no longer the most recent. This is the most recent one provided also. You can find that through S.F.D.R.C.I.S.D. So at this time, I will open the floor to any discussions, comments. So are we good with what we've done? I mean, we've put a lot of groundwork in place. A calendar that shows us where we're going, what we've done, where we're headed with this. We know what board policy is, having looked at it, what our options are. This instrument, and leadership S.F.D.R.C.I.S.D recommends it. We've edited it to make it our own, with what we want to see in terms of achievement and data and those things. I also think that if the board so chooses to approve it, I think these things should be up on the district website, the forms. Obviously not the completed evaluation when that's done, but the forms, which would include that calendar that I'm speaking of, the instrument that it would be in place if we approve it, the commissioner's worksheet that the superintendent will fill out ahead of time, and that will give a clear understanding to anyone looking what the process is, what we're doing, where we're going this, and what it all means in terms of his job, his accountability, and our job, and us being accountable to the public and where we're supposed to go and accomplish. Well, if there's no further discussion, then I so move to adopt the 2013-14 Superintendent Evaluation Instrument as presented, and to use said instrument according to the Commissioner of Education's recommended procedures as outlined in San Felipe Del Rio CISD Board Policy, BJCD Legal, Local, and Exhibit. Is there a second? Mr. Chavita has second. All in favor by a show of hands? It's unanimous. Motion carries. Any questions? Comments?
No, I want to thank the board for their participation. I think it's been a good process, and I think that it'll go a long way in pushing me to direct the district in the right direction for student achievement. So thanks for your participation. I think it was a fair process. I'm looking forward to the formative and eventual summative evaluation. Thank you.
Very good. That's mine. Okay, that brings us to agenda item 10B, consideration to nominate 4 candidates for placement on the Val Verde Appraisal District Board of Directors ballot. Dr. Rios, you want to give us the background on this, please?
Yes, we received a communication from Mashidi informing us that it was that time to nominate some candidates to be placed on the ballot, and she provided directions, which we shared with the board. At this time, she is asking for us to submit at least 4 candidates. We can submit up to 9, but because of the votes that the school district is given, we can only assure the eventual selection of 4 candidates. I visited with as many people as I could because of the short time that we had to act. And at this time, we're going to recommend that you nominate 4 candidates. I do want to mention that Mr. George Salinas, it's my understanding that he is the acting JP and therefore would not be a candidate to sit on the appraisal district board. So with that in mind, we're going to ask you to consider Mr. Alfredo Carranza, our board member, Mr. Raymond Mesa, Mr. Joey Garcia, and Mr. Ramiro Guzman to serve on the appraisal district. Any questions?
Any questions from the board? You know, these are important roles that they serve. Mr. Mesa, of course, has several years' experience. Mr. Carranza and some new people. Discussion, questions on this? Everyone's heard the recommendation. Is there a motion to that effect? Mr. Overfelt has motioned. Is there a second? Mr. Chavita, all in favor by a show of hands? It's unanimous. Motion carries. That brings us to agenda item 11, curriculum instruction. A being consideration to approve the resolution regarding extracurricular status of 4-H organization. Dr. Garza presenting.
Thank you, Mr. Garabedian, Dr. Rios, members of the board. The State Board of Education passed an amendment to 19 TAC 129.21, requirements for student attendance accounting for state funding purposes, that allows public schools students to be considered in attendance when participating in off-campus activities with an adjunct staff member of the school district. This amendment provides local school boards the opportunity to recognize county extension agents as adjunct staff members and to count student participating in 4-H extension education activities in attendance for the foundation school program purposes. And we do have 2 staff members for the 4-H program that would be considered adjunct staff members, and their names are Christina Nass and Miles Gibbs.
Any questions about how this works? Regarding like the livestock shows in San Antonio, Dallas, that sort of thing, Fort Worth, I guess. Questions, comments? Okay, the recommendation.
It is a recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees recognize the above-listed county extension agents as adjunct staff members and to count students participating in 4-H extension educational activities in attendance for Foundation School Program purposes. It is also requested that Dr. Carlos H. Rios sign the resolution regarding extracurricular status of 4-H organization as presented.
Per the recommendation, I so move to accept. Is there a second? Ms. Chavita, or Ms. Lozano has second. All in favor, by a show of hands? Unanimous, motion carries.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Item 12, Facility and Operations. There are no items for this meeting. Item 13, Business and Finance. A, consideration to approve the appointment of the local school health advisory council members. Diane Hernandez presenting.
Good evening, Mr. Garabedian, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. As you know, every independent school district is required to have a SHAC, or a School Health Advisory Committee. We have, in the past, combined it with our district planning and decision-making committees, and we have found it, very important to break it out into its own entity. So I came before you in, I believe it was June, and got your approval to go ahead and publicize or ask for committee members to volunteer to sign up, because it is voluntary. The SHAC, or the School Health Advisory Committee, serves as an advisory committee to the board of directors, or to the school board. And then the school board listens to what the advice is and decides whether to vote and carry forth or not. So the majority of the committee is required to be parents who are not employed by the school district. We posted in June on the school district website the requirements, or the positions that we were looking for, the standard positions that are sought for a SHAC committee. I believe lots of people were on vacation, so we didn't get a whole lot of response, so we extended the response period until August, the end of August. And so what you have before you is the list of folks who have come forward who are interested in serving on the School Health Advisory Committee. All right, so it is, the purpose of the committee is to have health officials, health folks, and we tried to get as a diverse a group as we could. We have a student member who was recommended by the Student Council liaison. So that's important to have a student member. Parents, of course. We have nutrition folks. We have health people as far as nurse practitioners, registered nurses, county extension agents, consumer science. So we pretty much took as many people that would come forward and say, yes, please come forward and help us out with this very important committee, because it needs to reflect the values of the community, and it needs to embrace and discuss the problems that they see as very specific to this community, so they can report to the board. The SHAC needs to meet a minimum of 3 to 4 times per year, and which they will then report back to the board their results. So what we are asking is the recommendation, if there are no questions, first of all. Any questions?
Okay, the recommendation.
Okay. It's the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approves the appointment of the local school health advisory council members, so we can get this ball rolling.
For the recommendation, I so move to accept. Is there a second? Ms. Lozano has second. All in favor, by a show of hands? Unanimous, motion carries. Thank you. Agenda item 14, Human Resources and Student Services. First being A, consideration to approve converting a security guard position to a peace officer position. Dr. Patricia McNamara presenting, and Chief Haynes is with us as well.
Good evening, Mr. Garabedian, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. This evening, we're here to present a proposal to convert a security guard position to a peace officer position. Chief Haynes has done a review of his staff and believes that this would be the appropriate approach at this time. We would not be adding a new position, just converting an existing security guard position in which we would post a position internally and then make that selection.
This would also give each of our campuses a peace officer at each campus. At this time, we currently have a security guard.
Secondary campus would have peace officer on it.
Yes. So Chief Haynes is here if anybody has any questions for him concerning his staffing pattern. This item goes hand in hand with the second item as well.
Okay. Any questions at this point? Okay, so we're gonna move on to the second item? or-
Go ahead and make this
Okay.
recommendation. That would be all right.
Recommendation if there's no questions.
All right, yes, sir. It is a recommendation of administration that a security guard position be converted to a peace officer position and approved as presented this evening.
For the recommendation, is there a motion to accept? Mr. Overfelt has motion, Mrs. Lozano has second. All in favor, by show of hands? Unanimous, motion carries. Mr. Chivita, you voted affirmative? Yes. Okay, unanimous, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. B, consideration to approve converting two peace officer positions to police sergeant positions and job description evaluation forms for police sergeant and police sergeant salary matrix.
Okay. Mr. Garabedian, members of the board, and Dr. Rios. Again, Chief Haynes is proposing through his staff review, converting two peace officer positions. Again, no new positions will be added, just a conversion to police sergeant positions. In your packet that was provided to each of you last week, you received the job description, evaluation forms, and the proposed salary matrix for your consideration this evening. And again, Chief Haynes is here if anybody has any questions.
How big is our force?
I have 9 peace officers, including myself.
Wow, 9,
And, yes,
1,000 kids, 9 police officers.
yeah, then I have a total of 11 security guards.
Thank you.
Other questions, comments? Okay, the recommendation.
Yes, sir.
And with this approval, it'll give me 10 peace officers.
It is a recommendation of administration that the police sergeant title, job description, evaluation forms, and salary matrix be approved as presented this evening.
Who've heard the recommendation, I so move to accept. Is there a second? Mr. Chivita has second. All in favor, by show of hands? Unanimous, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, board members. Thank you, Doc.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Agenda item 14C, consideration to approve converting the evaluator/district testing coordinator title to database manager Skyward specialist, and job description and evaluation forms for database manager Skyward specialist.
Okay. Mr. Garabedian, again, members of the board, and Dr. Rios, as we continue as a district to evaluate our positions, Mr. Abe Casillas has recommended converting an existing position, which was the evaluator district testing coordinator, to the database manager Skyward specialist. Also contained in your packet last week, we provide you with the updated job description and evaluation forms for your consideration. And Mr. Casillas is also here if you have any questions about his staff review and his recommendation this evening.
Questions or discussion for Dr. McNamara or for Mr. Casillas? Okay, the recommendation.
Okay, yes, sir. It is a recommendation of administration that the database manager Skyward specialist title and the job description evaluation forms be approved as presented this evening.
For the recommendation, I so move to accept. Is there a second? Mr. Chivita has second. All in favor, by show of hands?
Thank you.
Unanimous, motion carries. Thank you. Agenda item 15, technology. There are no items for this meeting. So that brings us to agenda item 16, which is closed session. Okay, it's now 8:10 p.m., October 21st, 2013. The Board of Trustees will recess this open session and convene a closed meeting in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551, Subchapter D and E. We're allowed to do that under Sections 551.071, 551.072, 551.073, 551.074, 551.076, 551.082, 551.084. Specifically, tonight, item A, pursuant to 551.071, private consultation with the board's attorney. 1, report regarding pending legal issues and report on settlement status. 2, consideration of waiver of claims for acceptance of reimbursement. D, pursuant to 551.074, discussion of personnel, or to hear complaints against personnel. Item 1 being discussion of personnel report, to include the following: new hires, district vacancies, retirements, resignations. All final votes, actions, or decisions will be taken in open session. We're now in closed session. He left when we went in, just as we were going into closed session. Whatever the time was when we left, that's when he excused himself and left the meeting. Okay, it's now 10:14 p.m., October 21st, 2013. And the Board of Trustees will now reconvene in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551, Subchapter D and E. No action was taken in closed session. Now that we're reconvened into open session, that brings us to agenda item 17. The first being A, consideration to approve the personnel report to include the following: new hires, district vacancies, retirements, resignations. Dr. McNamara presenting.
Mr. Garabedian, members of the board, Dr. Rios. At this time, the administration has the following recommendations for your consideration this evening. For keyboarding teacher at Del Rio Middle School, Ms. Kelly Serenana. Fourth grade teacher, Garfield Elementary, Marlene Diaz. First grade teacher, Garfield Elementary, Ms. Cynthia Kitchens. Third grade teacher, Garfield Elementary, Amber Diaz. Pre-K teacher at Irene Cardwell Head Start Program, Ms. Bertha Vincent. We also this evening have these recommendations for your consideration. Ms. Valerie Diona, first grade teacher, Buena Vista Elementary. Science teacher, Del Rio Middle School, Ms. Jessica Borsenberger. History teacher, Del Rio Middle School, Ms. Valerie Molina. And finally, fifth grade teacher at Dr. Femine Calderon Elementary, Ms. Susan Larson.
Okay, we've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion to accept? Ms. Lozano has motioned. I second. All in favor by a show of hands? It's unanimous. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Brings us to 17B, consideration of waiver of claims for acceptance of reimbursement. We've had a chance to discuss this in closed session. Are there comments or motion at this time? Mr. Overfeld?
Mr. President, with regard to the matter discussed in closed session with legal counsel of reimbursement from a former employee, I move to accept reimbursement in lieu of further prosecution.
Okay, we've heard a recommendation and the motion. Is there a second? Mr. Chavita has second. All in favor by a show of hands? 1, 2, hold your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in favor. All opposed? 1 opposed. Motion carries. Brings us to agenda item 18, superintendent's report. No items. No further business before this board. Agenda item 19, adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn? Mr. Overfeld has motioned. Is there a second? Mr. Chavita has second. All in favor, show of hands. Unanimous. Motion carries. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.